Hello and welcome to In Touch with Durham County. I'm your host, Deborah Craig-Ray, Chief Communications Officer. We're pleased to bring you conversations with our Durham County department leaders. Today's show will feature an important topic, the 2025 General Reappraisal, also known as revaluation. Simply put, North Carolina law requires all counties to reappraise real property at least every 8 years. Many counties adjust that schedule to make it shorter, but we'll talk about that later. I want to introduce you to our Durham County Tax Administrator, Keyar Doyle. Hi, Keyar.
Hello.
How you doing?
Doing good.
Well, we're glad to have you again on the show to talk about this important topic.
Glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, you might want to grab a pen because we're going to be talking about a lot of things, and specifically if you own real or business property, these are things that you will need to know. So I know one of the things, Keyar, I want to mention that you are one of the few department heads that actually gets appointed to serve at the pleasure of the Board of Commissioners. What's your main role as the tax administrator?
Well, my main role is to make sure that I work with 3 divisions within the department, being the real property division, the personal property listing division, and the collection division. And I work with those 3 divisions to make sure that we assign value, discover properties, and collect taxes.
Awesome. How many staff members do you have?
Roughly about 60.
Okay, that's a pretty good group. As I mentioned at the beginning, now North Carolina requires all 100 counties to reappraise their real property at least once every 8 years. Now, there are quite a few counties that adjust that schedule to make it shorter, say 4-year intervals. Can you tell us when was Durham County's last reappraisal?
Durham County's last reappraisal was January 1, 2019.
Okay, so clearly we are shorter than 8 years.
Yes.
We are in 2025 this time. Why was it important for us to make that adjustment?
Well, shorter's better. It takes away from the time for the market to do a lot of up and down. Shorter's always better, but we are actually trying to go for 4 years from now on. That particular time from 19 was supposed to be 2023, but of course there were a couple of things that occurred in between that time period. COVID, along with some IT malware attack. There were a lot of things that made it, and as well as Durham County also allowing us, the tax office, to go to a new software. So we went to a new software conversion. So those things coupled together kind of made it best for us to postpone that 2023 reappraisal.
Yeah, well, very good. Very good. Obviously, we had to use the prevailing situation, and it sounds like we've come out stronger from that.
Certainly.
Great. Now, why is it important to do reappraisals in the first place?
Reappraisals in general are designed to equalize the tax base. It's the number one goal is to bring all of the properties to 100% market value. That definitely is a good thing. It gives relief to the actual tax rate that does a lot of moving in between reappraisals. So it's a definitely a needed process.
Great. Now, one of the things that I've heard you say, you talked about market value. Exactly what is market value?
Market value is dictated by the buyers and sellers in the market. Any arm's length transaction, the office examines and evaluates, and we study those transactions to help us determine what market value is. But market value is dictated by us, the people, the buyers and sellers in any geographical market. And this particular market since 2019, and maybe slightly before, is a little abnormal in regards to the amount of increase that we've seen over the years. But that is dictated by the buyers and sellers in the market.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, I was reading the news this morning, and I was reading about a new neighborhood that's coming in. I think it's near the Farrington Road area. But they were mentioning the average price of those homes, and I was thinking, oh my God, that median price is very different than I recall a couple of years ago.
Right. Yes. The markets throughout Durham County have increased dramatically. I've been in the office since 2007, and what I've seen over that time period is astronomical in regards to the prices we saw on a regular basis in 2007 versus 2024.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great increase.
So how long has your staff been preparing for this reappraisal?
The actual process itself is focused on a 2-year period, but in actuality, it takes longer. So realistically, you got a good 6 months after your most recent reappraisal in a 4-year cycle. Now, if you're in 8 year or 6 years, you have a little more time, but focusing on a 4-year cycle, you really get to work about 3.5. So you got 3.5 years to pull that off. 2 years is what you're actually looking at in regards to the actual market data. So the sales, you start focusing in on are 2 years out from the reappraisal date. So January 1, 2025, we started analyzing sales January 1, 2023.
Okay. Now, what type of activities would our residents have noticed if they had seen your tax employees out in the community?
Hopefully what they're seeing are appraisers with tax identification uniforms and shirts and vests. The vehicles should say tax administration as well. But those appraisers are out taking listings. We call that taking listings, but what they're actually doing is verifying the information of the property. Square footage, through measurements, of course, and then we have, they're also examining or paying attention to the depreciation, the condition of the property. So those are the two main focuses on a field visit, to actually make sure that we have the square footage as accurate as possible, and those measurements are being done externally. So it's a hard job to do, but they're out there making sure that they measure the properties accurately and also pay attention to what the actual state of that property is at the date of that visit.
So if I had a 3-bedroom home when you appraised me last time, but I decided to add a 4th bedroom and a bathroom, you all would know that.
Yes, we are receiving the permits from the city of Durham. Their permitting system makes sure that we are aware of the permits that are being actually issued. So when an applicant applies for a permit, when that permit comes out, we get a copy of it. We know exactly that you are intending to add a bedroom or add 300 square feet. It could be as small as adding a deck to a property or as big as remodeling an entire house.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Now, we know that this includes personal real estate, but certainly business commercial is also included. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So how much goes into having to look at those types of properties?
It is the same process. We have commercial appraisers that are out visiting properties around the clock. They are visiting new construction. They are also visiting permitted work being done to existing properties. And they are paying attention to the sales that take place. Commercial is a lot more complicated because we are definitely still using all three approaches to value. So there's a cost approach, sales comparison approach, and the income approach. Commercial has a lot more income approach. So most of the sales that we are analyzing, we have to look at those sales, but we also have to actually take into consideration the income that they'll be using in regards to establishing that value.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, roughly how many properties are there in Durham County?
Well, there are roughly 130,000 parcels.
Okay.
And we start talking about improved parcels. There's roughly about 80,000 that are residential, and there's about another 10,000 that are commercial. Some of those commercial properties are vacant. Some of that's vacant land. So it's about 7,000 or so that are actually improved commercial properties.
Yeah. And so your staff has to handle all of that.
Yes.
And it takes a couple of years.
It does. It does.
Yeah, so we're just getting started. We've got a lot more things to talk about, and I know you've been going out in the community, just kind of helping people begin to understand this process. What have you done so far to sort of help the community begin to learn about reappraisal?
Well, we have made a focused effort this time around to make sure that we're trying to increase community outreach. I think community outreach has always been done. We've definitely done a lot more. The communication that we've gotten back, or the feedback we've gotten back from the community has been awesome. We've worked with a couple of different groups and associations to actually host. So they host. We partner with a couple of different organizations to make sure that we get as many people to these locations as possible, to try to make sure that we have the right information out there. The number one thing is just making sure that we increase awareness.
Yeah.
This time around, it's about the reappraisal, but I would like to make sure that we're just doing a lot of ongoing education in regards to tax in general.
Well, yeah, that's very important. Very important. Well, we've got much more to discuss, and we're going to take a break in a little bit. But I just wanted to give a little shout out to the fact that your tax bills were mailed to Durham County property tax owners in mid-August, and so taxes are due now. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, yeah.
Taxes are due as of September and up to January 5th.
Yeah. So remember, you have until January 5th, 2025 to pay your 2024 taxes without penalty. And after that, what happens?
After that, the penalties and interest start to accrue. We do not want that to take place, so please contact the tax office as soon as possible. If you have any issues, any hardships, we will definitely be there to work with any taxpayer that contacts us ahead of time.
Awesome, awesome. Well, we appreciate that. We're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we're going to continue our conversation on the 2025 general reappraisal process with our Durham County Tax Administrator, Keyar Doyle. Stay with us.
Hey there, Durham County. Welcome to our guide on the Durham County 2025 Real Property Reappraisal. General reappraisal updates the value of properties to reflect their current market worth. It doesn't include items like boats and cars or other non-real estate personal property. North Carolina law requires reappraisal every 8 years to ensure fair tax distribution. Durham County is moving to a 4-year reappraisal process to keep property taxes consistent and predictable, avoiding large jumps in your tax bill. The last reappraisal was in 2019, so it's time for an update in January 2025. The process involves reviewing property sales, building costs, and income data to determine accurate market values. It's like detective work for real estate. Our team analyzes recent property sales to understand market trends and assess the current value of properties. We also look at building costs to determine the value of new constructions and improvements on properties. Income data from rental and commercial properties helps us evaluate the income-generating potential of these properties. During the first quarter of 2025, you'll receive your new assessed property value. If you disagree with your new property value, you can file an appeal online on our website. You might be wondering, how will this affect my tax bill? It depends on tax rates set by local jurisdictions, such as the City of Durham and Durham County. Your bill might go up, down, or stay the same. Thank you for learning more about the 2025 general reappraisal process. If you have any questions or need more information, visit our website or give us a call. We're here to help. See you next time.
Welcome back to In Touch. We're sharing information about the 2025 general reappraisal, also called revaluation. Our guest is Durham County Tax Administrator Keyar Doyle. So Keyar, we've touched on a lot of information. We've talked about preparing and executing the reappraisal, and you've talked about how much time your staff has spent out in the field, literally measuring properties across Durham County.
Yes. That process is something that's actually ongoing, whether we're in a reappraisal or not. That's part of their day-to-day job in regards to fielding the permits that we are receiving through the office. That is something that kind of intensifies during the reappraisal year because we have other tasks that we're responsible for on top of maintaining those permits. But those permits are a good indicator of growth in regards to building that's going on, especially new construction. I think you mentioned a new neighborhood earlier, and those permits are probably reflected in how many properties will be in that particular subdivision.
Yeah. So I know when we talked earlier, we talked about some of the factors that go into how you appraise these properties. And I know location is important. How important is location in determining the property's value?
Location is very important. It's the land value. The land value in Durham, especially over the last few years, has increased drastically. There are a lot of indicators from just vacant land sales as well as teardowns. We're seeing a lot of properties being bought on the market or purchased on the market, and then they're torn down, and that vacant land is sold for more than the property was. Yes, so those type of indicators show growth. Also, the teardowns that lead to multiple properties being built where that one property once sat. We're seeing a lot of flag lots being created where properties are being built in front of and behind. So all of these are signs of growth, but they're also indicators that the land value itself has increased.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And again, one other element is price. How important is price in setting the value?
Well, that's the final determining factor. The prices here in Durham County have drastically increased. There are properties where there used to be $80,000 to $120,000 price range in that particular market area, and now those are $325,000
Wow.
areas in regards to the median prices of the homes being sold there. But price is the number one indicator, and we try to look, when the office is evaluating sale prices, we're looking at arm's length transactions only. So those are properties that are between a willing buyer and seller. We are excluding foreclosures,
Yeah.
distress sales, and things of that nature. But yes, price is the number one indicator.
Now, I know very recently you brought to the commissioners the schedule of values, and those are the standards and the values and the rules that you all use. Why is that important?
Well, they're very important, for one, to make sure that we are transparent, number one, in regards to the work we do. It also is very important because that particular schedule of values holds for the entire reappraisal cycle. So the adopted schedule of values will be the benchmark until the next, and I think expected, reappraisal, which is 2029. So those standards and practices will hold and are to be basically used as a benchmark until the next reappraisal.
Yeah, and I know the commissioners had to actually receive that and approve that, yes?
Yes, we submitted that to the commissioners, I believe, on October 14th. And then we had public hearing on October 28th, I believe that was. And they actually adopted in the most recent session.
Okay.
Yes.
And so certainly it's a public document, and so
It is a public document.
community can see it?
Yes, and at the date of adoption, the public has 30 days of actual challenge. They have 30 days to challenge the actual schedule. I believe the end of that challenging date would be December 11th, I believe that is. So from the date of adoption until that date of the challenging being over, they have opportunities to openly look at it, critique it. It is one located in my office.
Okay.
There's one located in the clerk's office, and there's one located at the downtown main library.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Very good. Very good. So I know that you have plans to send out the actual new values in early 2025. So once people receive those values out of their mailbox and they take a look, my home is now valued at X. What happens if they have questions about that?
So there are a couple of different things they can do. The number one thing they should do is definitely contact the tax office. That's number one. If they have any questions, they should feel free to contact the tax office. We have staff on hand that will be prepared to deal with any types of questions and trying to make sure we provide as much clarity as possible. Afterwards, shortly after that, I believe in the month of March, there will be scheduled informational meetings. They'll have an opportunity to schedule those meetings with staff. During that time period, they'll be able to sit down one-on-one with an appraiser and kind of just get some clarity, ask questions, and it'll also give the appraiser an opportunity to ask some questions about the property as well. After that, that's just a matter of getting information.
Okay.
But after that, they'll have an opportunity to appeal if needed. And when you're appealing, you are appealing the property. You're appealing the listing. You're appealing the value. You're not appealing your tax bill.
Right.
You're appealing the value. So it's very important that when they appeal, that they understand that they are appealing the value, which also in turn causes the appraiser to ask questions about the property to make sure that we have the listing correct. So during that time period, one of three things can happen. The property can be reduced,
Okay.
it could stay the same,
Okay.
or it could go up.
Uh-oh.
So I always like to make sure I make that clear. We know that the intentions are to hopefully find some reason to reduce, but there's also a possibility that value can go up based off of something being discovered. Just for example, quickly, property has a unfinished basement, or we have it listed as an unfinished basement, and we discover that the basement is actually fully finished.
Yeah.
That increases square footage, value in turn goes up.
Right.
So that's just a quick example, but it's very possible that property goes up. Not often, but it has happened.
Yeah, so I come in and I say, well, wait now. I brought my house at the same time my neighbor did, and we got the same house. Why is his this and why is mine that? Do you have that kind of situation?
We have that situation all the time. Sometimes that is a valid argument, and sometimes we can have that conversation and discover some inconsistencies. Sometimes that it was just merely a matter of some of the things going on internally in the property that changed the difference in regards to some of the amenities.
Right.
Somebody has hardwood floors, somebody has carpet.
Okay.
Somebody has some more finishes in the kitchen and the bathrooms than somebody else. People pay for those differences. So sometimes it's reflected in the quality of the construction, and sometimes there really is an inconsistency in the listing.
Yeah.
So that's something we need to know, and we're glad when taxpayers bring that to our attention.
Very good, very good. Now, another thing that people shouldn't try to do is when they get that new value, they shouldn't try to figure out what their tax bill will be, right?
I won't
Based
say they
on
shouldn't,
this
but it's a
value.
very hard thing to do.
Yeah.
The number one issue with that is you won't know what the tax rate is. The tax rate usually is not established until much later in the year, sometime usually between July and August. So knowing what your tax rate is very important in being able to calculate the actual tax bill. You need your tax value divided by 100, multiplied times the tax rate. If you use, during a reappraisal year, if you use the most recent tax rate, you would be very, very shocked and disappointed in that particular figure, because the rate would be expected. We're expecting the current rate to be much higher than what the rate would be during a reappraisal year. But my office has no idea or any way of being able to help you calculate a tax bill without having a tax rate.
Right, right. And let's be clear, your office doesn't set the tax rate.
No.
That is set by our elected officials, our city council, and our board of commissioners.
That is correct. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, you do what you do, but they set the rate. So one of the things I did want to just mention is I know people sometimes have concerns about how they're going to pay the taxes, and we do actually have some property tax relief programs. So I can put them on the screen, but why is it important that we have some property tax relief programs?
Well, tax relief is essential. I think that it is very, 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 very important to make sure the taxpayers are aware of the tax relief programs that are offered through the county. There are 3 tax programs that the tax administration administers, and those programs are state programs. That is the elderly and disabled exemption. There's also the veteran disabled exclusion, and then there's the circuit breaker exclusion, which is actually a deferment program. Durham County solely individually offers the LIHR tax relief program, and that is the low income homeowner relief program. That is administered through the Department of Social Services.
That's right.
We are fortunate to be able to say that we offer that program, being Durham County, and we are one of the first innovative counties to produce such a program. It's a tax assistance program, so it's a little different from the state programs, but because it is Durham County's program, it's a little more flexible in regards to not being uniform with the rest of the state. The 3 state programs we offer through the tax office are uniform programs. Just for example, there are limitations when you're doing uniform state programs because we're limited to the same limitations as the rest of the state. So the income's a little harder to qualify for because that income is considerate of the entire state. So that $36,700 is the income max, and that is, it's hard to qualify for. Those programs are great programs if you qualify.
Wonderful. Well, we just want to thank you so much for joining us today and discussing our upcoming 2025 reevaluation process and sharing this great information. Is there a good phone number for people to call the tax office?
Definitely. They can contact us at 919-560-0300.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for all you do for Durham County to help us provide all the services that we provide.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me.
Yes. And we'd like to thank you for joining us. For all of us at Durham County Government, please have a safe and a joy-filled holiday season. Cheers.